the whole process because my fingers are itching.
Very excited to join this project. Christine told me that she was having a Bollywood-inspired cover girl photo shoot. So I thought that it would be a very good idea to mix and match, considering I provide 100% Indian humid hair. I am looking forward to the final look.
What I was looking for was something dramatic. For Njue's makeup, I went really heavy on the eye. You know, Bollywood makeup is very dramatic. It's lots of color, and they're not afraid to push the boundary when it comes to eyeshadow. And I made sure that her lips were really popping with a dark purple lip color. The first look that I did was a matte one, and the second look, I actually just added gloss on top of it. The purple eyeshadow for me was a winner. I usually don't apply a lot of makeup, so for this I was also pushing the boundary, because for me less is always more. But when it came to this look, I thought, why not just go extra? I think that her facial expressions just made the whole look very modern, and she pulled it off really well, but still cultural Bollywood look. I was happy with that. Spoke to Thompson. He would be the best person to shoot this look, and so when I finally got in touch with him, sat him down, showed him what I was looking for, he was so excited, and he thought, you know what, Christine, I think we're going to pull this look off perfectly. And that's what we did. He did an amazing job. I like what he did with the different setups of the backgrounds that made the outfits just pop. So I'm looking forward to the final shots, because they just look too gorgeous already. Finally, we are done. It's been an amazing shoot. Njue, what do you think of the outfit?
I love the outfit. It's so beautiful, so unique.
What about the first look? What did you like about it?
The first look, I liked that I looked like Wonder Woman.
Nice.
But it was cultural at the same time. And as I said, it was formal. So it gave a wedding type of vibe.
Yeah, it was very bridal.
Like yeah.
Okay, what do you like about this second look?
I love it because it's nice. It's cool because it's two pieces. So it has this modern yet cultural vibe to it.
Have you ever tried this kind of outfit before?
No. No.
Sometimes we see it in the Bollywood movies and you think, that wouldn't look nice on me, but it looks amazing. I like how it's just cropped it at the right place. I know there's so many girls out there who would also want the experience of cover girl looks, but girl, you know how to make it easy.
So I try.
What's the next look that we're going to do?
African?
African, where exactly? Senegal, Malawi, which look?
Maybe Nigerian.
Nigerian cover girl. Here we come.
To get Nissin Creed as your skiza tune, dial *811 *963#.
We believe in one God, the Father, the Almighty, maker of heaven and earth and all that is seen and unseen. We believe in one Lord, Jesus Christ, the only Son of God, eternally begotten of the Father, God from God, light from light, true God from true God.
To get Nissin Creed as your skiza tune, dial *811 *963#. *811 *963#.
Will you focus, you cabbage face? This kind of speech is for those who use their brains. You, on the other hand, could use water and soap.
Guys! Julia and Vala have eaten all the food. Now we are going to die.
voice down.
You know, I had no plan of going out like this, just so you know. And Julia, just know you're the worst planner in the history of planning.
What is your problem, eh? Why can't you just enjoy the trip like the rest of us?
We might have taken the wrong van. Whose van is this?
I'm feeling the music in the air.
Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
The excitement of the Olympic Games doesn't just stop there, as the biggest para-sports event, the 2020 Paralympic Games, gets underway from the 24th of August to the 5th of September in Tokyo, Japan. So, get ready to be inspired by these sportsmen and women with outstanding abilities, and look out for Team Kenya too in their quest for glory by watching all the highlights daily on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Get the VIP access to the best shows on KBC Channel 1. We have something different, something special to spice you up. Get ready for new, exciting and captivating dramas. Movies.
Love the smell.
Comedy.
I went to the Popos.
Drama.
Will you assault the Queen in my house, in my presence?
News, sports, and so much more. Do the things that make you happy on KBC Channel 1.
Good morning and welcome to Newscheck on this 25th day of August 2021. Hope you're having a fabulous morning. It's time to have a look at what is currently trending and what is currently affecting the country when it comes to the roadmap 2022. That is a discussion we are going to have. Welcome. Remember, you can be part of this conversation via all our social media platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, because this broadcast is live. Kindly, your questions, suggestions, or even where you are watching us from, we highly welcome that. My name is Njue. Lensa Odingo will be our sign language interpreter for this morning. And it's exactly, just slightly under 1 year, Kenyans will go to the polls. That is August of 2022. But question is, are we ready? Are we there yet? Looking at the previous elections, of course, Iebc has been limping since the last election. Of course, quorum issues that were even brought out by the High Court and also the Court of Appeal during the BBI appeal. But away from that, they have been tasked with ensuring that we have a free, fair and credible election in the year 2022. All the challenges, including the quorum issue, are being addressed, because yesterday the 4 names that were forwarded to Parliament were vetted, and it's only a matter of time before the Iebc becomes fully constituted. But the being well constituted is not the only challenge that is affecting Iebc and matters election, and that is exactly what we'll be looking at this morning. And I'm joined by the program's manager for ELOG, that is the Election Observation Group, Marcus Agenga. Karibu sana, Marcus.
Thank you, Ben, for having me here.
And before you tell us exactly what ELOG does, let's look at a case study. Zambia. Yesterday, there was the promulgation of the president, or the swearing in of the president. And looking at the Zambian election and the smooth transition, of course, the incumbent, Edgar Lungu, was defeated by Hakainde Hichilema. But looking at how the election was carried out, looking at how he handed over power, the incumbent is something that could be a case study in Africa, something to emulate perhaps?
Indeed.
Your take?
I think Africa must be proud of Zambia. That this is the third time that Zambia is having peaceful handover of power, and a number of things can be learned from Zambia, even as we move into 2022 elections. Of course, the newly elected president, this was his 6th attempt to cling power in Zambia. Of course, that gives hope to some of our political candidates who have been vying for a very long time, that there's always hope that if you do things right, you can be able to still get power for our opposition that has never gotten power since 2002. Number two, the other lesson that we can learn from Zambia is that institutions, if they are properly instituted and if they're given room to work, they will always deliver, regardless of the person who holds those offices. So when you have vibrant institutions, when you have enabled institutions, then not only is confidence of the public enhanced, but also there is this inner disposition to be able to deliver their mandate. So when you have vibrant institutions which are fully capacitated, then you get good results. The third thing that I think we could learn, I think for Kenya, and of course especially for the opposition, that there is some unity. There's some strength in unity, of course, that you see that in Zambia, the opposition saw this as not them versus us, but they said, let us come together, let us bring the change we desire. So when you have an opposition with a vision, an opposition with a purpose and focus, then that coupled with the working institutions will deliver results.
Indeed.
And of course, the other last bit, the fourth lesson is about trust. That the Zambian people trust the institutions that work for them, and that is critical. Our institutions, especially ourselves, we don't appear to trust those institutions that have been put forward as working for us.
Indeed, and we will touch on the trust issues when it comes to Iebc in Kenya. You are a group that overlooks, or actually is mandated to observe matters election. There were election observers, international election observers in Zambia, and they gave a thumbs up to the election, something very different from our brothers in Uganda.
Yeah, but you see the differences that in Zambia, like I've said, the processes and the results from that process were very open. The members of the public were able to access such information. The media was allowed to access information. Observers were allowed to access every stage of the process and the result. So such a verdict, surely, it was a very open and transparent democratic process. Unlike Uganda, you saw what happened, that we had a number of events leading to the election. We had media not only strangled, but severely suffocated in Uganda. You had a number of observers that withdrew their missions because the ground wasn't attainable for them to work. And so where you aren't allowed to work within the scope of your mandate, then you are not able to give an objective judgment. And therefore what you do is either you suspend judgment, or you say, I'm sorry, I can't speak to the process because I wasn't part of that process, or some of these things have been held away from us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another thing before we look at the Kenyan situation is we saw how these two presidents just kept aside their differences during the handover. We never even saw that in the election for United States, which is termed as one of the best democracies we have in
even
the world.
In 202,
looking at the ceremony yesterday, it was quite colorful, and he handed over power quite smoothly.
Yeah, you remember, Ben, that there was this impression created either by the media or some guys that Edgar would not hand over power.
Yes.
So they were building a momentum or creating a script that the incumbent will never hand over power. And of course, this was an attempt to sustain a narrative in Africa that incumbents don't go. And of course, some of these discussions are well-founded. But ultimately, the nation called Zambia and its leaders have come to the conviction that leadership is about service. And I mean, today I'm at the helm to serve. Tomorrow, someone else comes in. I mean, his contract with the people of Zambia ended. They either renewed it or they didn't. In his case, they didn't renew his contract with the people of Zambia. And he understood this, that it meant time for him to leave. And so when our leaders come to the understanding that leadership is meant to serve the people who elect us to offices, if leadership is meant to understand that we are here for a time and a season, when that time comes, we go, peacefully go, and you shall have done your term. And I think this is something that should resonate in Africa.
Yes.
That the term limit must be not only respected, but when the people say they are not renewing your contract to serve them, you accept and you thank them for the time they gave you. That, I think, demonstrates servant leadership.
Indeed. I concur with you, my brother. Of course, we hope that Zambia's situation is replicated in other African countries, and including Kenya and the world as well. Let's now come over to Kenya. ELOG, you are an election observation group. Exactly what is your mandate? Because we also saw you in the BBI, but we'll get to that. Okay. What exactly is your mandate?
ELOG has been established as a citizen observation platform that observes the electoral process in Kenya. So we are a citizen platform whose sole mandate is to provide a forum in which citizens are able to observe their own processes. For instance, you see, elections is not only the 9th of August. Elections is also what happens before 9th of August. So elections is a process, is a cycle. So that we have got the pre-election cycle, you have got the election cycle, and you have got the post-election cycle. So each of these cycles have got various events or activities that need to be observed. So we exist to be able to monitor various aspects. Is there voter registration taking place? Someone needs to observe that and be able to speak to what is happening. Are there recruitment of various election actors or workers? Someone must be there. Is there voter education going on? Someone must observe. So that's the work we do. We observe each of the events that make up the elections. Yeah.
And the BBI judgment, you were part of the verification of the signatures, and of course the court declared that the process and the Iebc had contravened the law. Kind of tell us something about the BBI signature verification exercise.
I know, well, like I said, yeah, that's true. I mean, the ELOG, like I said, Ben, that ELOG exists as a platform that observes the various events and activities of the electoral process. And remember, the promoters of the BBI had an eye to amend the constitution, which then was a reserve of the Iebc to be able to carry out and organize and carry out referenda in this country. Now, as part of their process, of course, once they received the bill together with the signatures, they had to be subject to verification as mandated by the law. So, of course, ELOG was there. We gave our report, we did the same thing with the Punguza Mizigo, we did that thing with Okoa Kenya, and now also together with the BBI signature verification. We raised fundamental issues, of course, and part of which, and I just let me single out about like two or three of them. First, and which this Court of Appeal spoke to, the lack of a framework to verify signatures. When you say you're verifying signatures, to verify something is to ascertain that what is before you is a true representation of what ought to be. Now, we said in our statement that the Commission lacked what we call a central depository of signatures. You know, you go to the bank, you want to sign a check. You know, not every signature goes to the bank. There's a deposit of your signature, Ben, in your bank. You sign a check. They'll be able to compare and say, oh, yeah, this signature belongs to Ben, and therefore they cash it in. So we raised the question, upon which framework, or which framework did Iebc verify those signatures? They lacked that framework, because there was no deposit of voters' signatures against which to compare. And of course, that has been now. So when the Court of Appeal speaks to a lack of a framework, they're actually saying that you had no means to verify these signatures. The second issue we raised, that even if we were to go to a referendum, there is a lack of a legal regime to be able to guide a referendum. That has been mentioned by the court, as you're aware. And lastly, the thing that we raised was the question. We kept on pushing for the full constitution of the Iebc.
Yes.
Because there were policy issues regarding a number of commissions and activities, and you've seen it's come to the fore that the court said, no, you guys were not fully constituted to make certain policy decisions, and the framework is a policy issue.
Yes. Now, still on the BBI, Iebc was supposed to carry out a referendum and election in the same time frame. According to your observation, was it possible?
Well, the IBC said, as you know, of course, it's only the IBC who can conduct both processes concurrently. So that answer would be better answered by the IBC. But from observers' point of view,
yes,
these two are heavy.
Yes.
These two are elections, as it were, because the referendum is another election. Now, to combine those two, look at the resources that are required to undertake that exercise. Look at the logistical aspects that are required to undertake that exercise. Look at the human components and lack of a legislative framework to govern such a process. We felt that it would be an uphill task for the Commission to successfully carry out those two heavy activities within a span of 1 year. And therefore that we were saying that if the majority feel that they need to be done, then ILOG would respect what the people want. If the IBC says that they're able to do it within the span of 1 year, then ILOG's role is to accept that, recognizing that it is the Commission that is mandated to do those two, and if they say they can do it, then our work is to simply observe and speak to the process and the results as they are announced by the Commission.
Yeah. Earlier when we were looking at the Zambia situation, you did mention that they trust their Iebc there. Could you blame the lack of trust with the institution of Iebc on what we experience each election year? We remain more divided after every election cycle, as opposed to what happened in Zambia.
Yeah, I think there is a problem with trust. I think the trust deficit in the Commission is something that must be addressed. And I think, of course, the Commission is, in my own analysis, is aware that the trust issues are always leveled against the Commission, and that does not augur well for the Commission. And I want to say two things about the issue of trust. First is that if you have strong systems in place, then it doesn't matter that Chebukati is the head of the Commission or Benya the head of the Commission. The systems work. And it seems to me that sometimes we set the Commission for failure. The Commission asks for X amount of money to be able to deliver, because you said, when you started this show, you said they are mandated to ensure that Kenyans have credible, peaceful, free and fair elections.
Yes.
And there are things they require to be able to undertake that and deliver on their mandate. Now, when they don't get money, for instance, they get half or a quarter of what they need, then you are setting that Commission for failure. That's number one. So that we must build our institutions, build the institutions to be able to work and provide for what they need to be able to work. Now, part of the trust deficit we see in the IBC is while I agree that part of it is real, of course, the issue of servers are not opened, the issue of a number of polling POs or a returning officer being compromised. I mean, that drains the deficit. But also there's another element where it is created. We set up the Commission to fail when we don't give it its resources in good time. Remember, like I said, elections is not an event. It's a process, so that you want the entire cycle properly funded to be able to speak to what happens on the elections day. So like I said, it's a two-way traffic. I mean, there are problems within the commission. You saw in 2017 the power wrangles between the CEO and the chair. You saw the resignation of the commissioners. You saw what one of the commissioners said, Akombe, about what happened. So we saw what the court said about how they conducted the election of the president in 2017. So all those things tend to diminish trust to the public. In conclusion to that question you've asked, I think what Iebc must do is to invest heavily in the people, to be able to explain to the people, to explain what they're doing, where they're doing it, and why they're doing it. Remember, procurement was a big issue.
Yes. Even had the chicken
scandal. So all these things have issues relating to trust, and they must be addressed. Yeah.
Indeed. And talking of funding of Iebc, they talked about 40 billion, which is the most expensive in Africa. And of course, we ranking, I don't know, is the second or the third?
Second most expensive in the world.
In the world, over 40 billion. The Treasury talked about 26 billion.
Yes,
Wow, that is something else that, of course, will impede Iebc for now. And of course, we cannot always be trustful that, of course, they will be able to work with what they have. And now, at least, they are fully constituted. There are a lot of challenges, of course, which we will be looking at as well. Do you believe they should be doing exactly what Zambia did? You've talked about if we trust our institution, we fund them well, and now you've talked about resources and investing in trust. Of course, we have to touch the figures.
I know.
Very expensive.
I agree with you, Ben, that our elections are the most expensive elections. One of the most expensive elections in the world, and I agree that we probably we need to audit our electoral processes, and especially ask ourselves the question: why do we spend the money we spend? In Kenya, it costs a voter over 2,500 shillings. In Kenya, it's over $25. It cost a voter $25.
That is over 2,500
yes, that is very expensive. So you ask the question: why are our elections expensive? And it goes down to trust issues. We have invested. You've heard it said before that the number of security features in our ballot paper.
Again, trust
is so that we want to cure trust by investing much money in it, which is a problem. And like I said, that if we can invest, and it goes back to my point, if we can invest in making our institutions stronger and providing for what is required and ensure that the right people manage those institutions, then trust is automatic. I guess. And then, of course, so that even the issues of trying to invest so much money, like I've said about security features in our, if you compared the security features on our currency with the ballot paper has more features than our currency. So that means you can see where our heart is. So that I think moving forward, it is a big issue of investing in our institutions. But like I've said, Ben, also, let me say this: that it is not only the Iebc, by the way, that is the only institution that is supposed to help in ensuring that Kenyans have free and fair elections. There are multiple institutions, and you mentioned them already, I think, before we started the show. You have got the judiciary. You have got the office of the Register of Political Parties. You have got political parties themselves that are also critical players in the electoral process. If you mess up nominations, you mess up elections. If you field bad candidates that don't meet the threshold as prescribed in our national values, tell me what kind of leaders you're going to produce at the ballot. I mean, they say, show me the leader you elect and I show you who you are. So the political parties, the office of the Register of Political Parties, there are a number of institutions that should be working together to ensure that the process meets the expectation that is enshrined in our constitution.
Indeed, and it's good you've mentioned a partnership from various quarters. Yesterday, the Director of Public Prosecution, Nudin Haji, questioned Parliament with ensuring we have legislation that bars leaders who have integrity questions. You think they're going to see the light of day in Parliament? We have seen you talked about 9 governors have already been charged, but they are still in office. We have a lot of MPs who have integrity issues and cases in courts. Do you think that could cure at least the integrity question that we have
if we put proper and stringent legislation, then it not only would help that, but it also will deter candidates or aspirants with questionable integrity issues from vying. In absence of such a strong legislation, every person would want to vie, and they are answering to serious questions, and the law protects them. Well, I agree the law should protect you, but also the law should also protect the people as well. And of course, if you remember, it's been a big problem that you look at Chapter 6 of our Constitution and you look at the Leadership and Integrity Act. I mean, it was what we have in the Act is not strong enough to hold any accused accountable. And so that's why the DDP is trying to, I mean, he has realized there is a need to strengthen that law to be able to speak to the spirit of the law, because that is lacking in its implementation. So I think if Parliament listens and agrees to such provisions, then I think it can work.
And also the same, when Iebc was issuing its 2022 roadmap, and especially when it came to the referendum and the general polls, all the stakeholders were there. I remember the DPP, the EAC, the judiciary. Actually, the chief registrar, Anna Amadi, is the one who went there on behalf of the CJ. And they talked about and the national cohesion. They're always talking about when we go to elections, we're going to work together, ensure there's no violence, ensure everything is working. But look at our election cycle. There's violence, there's mistrust, there's election malpractices. And could that be the reason as to why Nudin Haji, the Director of Public Prosecution, talked about ensuring we have laws that actually deter and look at the integrity of our leaders before we put them in office?
Yeah, definitely, Ben, I agree. I think part of the problem that we continue to have in our, I think that they are saying that the 2022 election could either be a repeat of 2007 or could be a replica of what happened in 2002 or in between. So you have got a section of Kenyans who are thinking that 2022 will be violent. There are those who think that 2022 will be peaceful. There are those who think that 2022 will be in between. Now, the cycle of violence in every election, then, in every election, violence has characterized our elections. In every election, even by-elections. Of course, see what happened in the recent by-elections. And by-elections have told us to prepare for a possible violent elections in 2022. Now, what causes the violence in elections? A number of reasons. Of course, there are economic reasons that cause violence, but there are also some of them politically instigated. A leader utters a word, incites this community against that community, this person against that person. And so when you have leaders who are inciting communities against communities, or ethnic groups against ethnic groups, or a section of population against the other one, that leader, and of course, going back to the topic we're discussing about integrity, shouldn't even be fit even to be elected. Now, when you have a legal regime, and especially those that are working towards ensuring that such kind of people are not only tried, but also are prevented from running in an office, if that regime is weak, then you will not bring to justice or to book such utterances, because you lack the tooth to bite. One of the things that we have, and a number of stakeholders have said, can we have even the national integration, the NCIC Act, the National Commission and the National Cohesion and Integration Commission Act must be reviewed as well, because you speak about hate speech. We live in the same country. Hate speech is a very difficult aspect to try in court, because there are many loopholes to that act. So together with other legislations, there's need for us to move with speed, to look at all these pieces of legislation that are meant to bring order and sanity in our politics, so that when we move towards 2022, we have proper systems that can hold everyone accountable, including politicians.
Indeed. To Iebc, you've been an election observation group for several years. And
it's our 10th year.
10 years?
Yeah.
Oh, indeed. That's good. And you're also on the 2022.
Yes.
What systematic challenges have you encountered Iebc faces each and every time for the last 10 years?
Okay.
And what can be done to cure this cancer?
Let me just mention a few.
Yes.
First is underfunding of the commission, and I think that's a big issue. You have a budget for the commission, which is rarely met. As I speak with you right now, there are outstanding bills that IBC hasn't paid from the 2017 election.
As you speak?
As we speak. And they're moving into a new election with accruing bills of 2017. Now, when you underfund a commission, then you set it up for failure, like I've said. That's number one. So proper funding should be budgeted for and provided for by the IEBC, and of course from the public coffers. The second problem that has continued to bewilder IEBC is trust deficit, which comes from a number of things within the IEBC and without the IEBC. The infighting of the commission, within the commission itself, the CEO and the commission, among the commissioners themselves, they have a big issue. When you have two people fighting, two people are fighting in the same house, there's a problem. So we don't trust you, because you say something now, you say something that time. It doesn't seem to augur very well for the country. So those issues, and we have suggested as AirLog, part of our recommendations, that the apparent power wrangles within the commission should be addressed. Either the commission that becomes the person you hold responsible, or you hold the CEO responsible. You can't hold both. You cannot do both. One person, the buck must stop with someone, and that someone must be having the legal mandate that allows them to be able to access some of the information that they need to speak to. The other thing I could say about the IEBC is apparent interferences from outside itself. Some people call it state capture, some people call it elite capture, but precisely because of the mandate of the commission, it is the only commission that we've had the word independent commission. So we want it to be independent. So the IEBC must always strive to live by its name of independence, so that it does not appear to be playing a tune for someone else. It shouldn't appear. It shouldn't even be seen to appear that it does that, so that it remains that independent. But of course, the other thing, I think there are two more things that I wanted to say. First is because we have always appointed the commissioners late into the day of election. These guys came 8 months to 2017 election.
Yes.
Now we have 4 guys coming 9 months, 10 months or 11 months to this election. So you see that we have a tendency of not making the commission be really in place in good time. Remember, we had the Kriegler Commission and its recommendations that we need to have in place at least 2 years before a fully functional commission. We have never done that. So we continue to bring in commissioners very late in the day. By the time they learn the job, elections are already over. And guys, so we have a big issue with that.
Yeah, and still going back to the Kriegler report, 2 years or at least a year.
2 years.
We are deep into the year because, of course, now we have less than a year. But something that was also raised by the High Court and the Court of Appeal is that IEBC had not, talking about another BBI, had not carried out continuous mass voter registration. That is something that has not yet kicked in as we speak. Will we be able to beat the deadlines and ensure that, as you said, independent, we have free, fair and credible elections?
There are two things, Ben, here. First, there is the question of continuous voter registration that should be taking place every day at the constituency IBC offices in every constituency. Then there is these targeted or mass voter registration drives. Now, again, it comes back to resources, of course. I think now the IBC should come and come out and tell the public that even since 2017 elections, how many new voters have registered? How many Kenyans have registered since 2017? Can we demonstrate that the IBC has continuously been registering voters? That's number one. Number two, there is the question of mass voter registration, which again requires it requires resources.
Yes.
It's not cheap to have mass voter registration. Remember in 2017, towards 2017, we had two of them. We had the first and the second mass voter registration drives. So if we can facilitate IEBC, then we can beat the deadline.
Yes, and we are less than a year, and on 15th of August, that is around 10 days ago, Transparency International, your organization was there as well.
CMD.
CMD was also there.
Greco.
Yes. You raised issues when it comes to the election, the management of finances when it comes to election and campaigns. Kindly shed light on that.
Well, we raised issues when we saw that the Committee of Parliament gave its verdict and said that they rejected the limits that were imposed by not imposed but gazetted by the IEBC, of course. But we had a big reservation and said that we must regulate the use of money, because again, if we are to be citizens of this country, we must also adhere to the Constitution and its provisions. The IEBC is mandated to regulate the amount of money used by political parties and their candidates. So it's already vested in our Constitution. Number two, we have never, you remember in 2017, we never regulated regulated the money in 2013 election. We never did the same in 2017, and possibly in 2022. So we were saying, as observers and as people interested in that topic, that we must regulate the use of money. I mean, we can have a discussion about the limits that were set, but the money must be regulated. We must allow the IEBC to regulate, monitor the use of money, because misuse of money, like I said, money has got twin potential in politics. It can aid in your emergence as a leader, but it can also ensure that we get the wrong people, because they're using their muscles in terms of money to come into office. So someone must be watching, and especially illicit monies that come to someone's pocket. Are we using money to reward a number of candidates who then are expected to give kickbacks at the end of the day? So someone must watch what monies come into the campaigns and how they are used and who uses them. So we say that we could have a discussion about the limits that were set, but let us not refuse the operationalization of those spending limits. Let us move into this election of 2022 with that regulations in place.
We are hoping at least there will not be money laundering that has been suspected in so many African states when it comes to election. On 18th of June, the Commission identified 6 strategic points that they were going to be looking at to ensure that the elections were, and perhaps to touch some of them, talking about strengthening corporate governance, strengthening the legal framework, effect conduct on election, public outreach, of which public participation was mentioned also at the Court of Appeal, and equitable representation and strengthening strategic operations. Is this the miracle cure for the challenges facing IEBC when it comes to elections?
I honestly, I think, Ben, if those issues are addressed, we'll take a very big step towards the right direction. It may not cure everything, but it will give us the minimum satisfaction that our process is fair. Address the legal loopholes, reach out to the public as much as you can. Your corporate governance addressed. I think those issues, if IBC is serious about them, we'll see a very big step in the positive direction.
Let's now shift focus to the registrar of political parties. A lot of Kenyans, a couple of weeks or a couple of months ago, they've found themselves in parties they have never registered or even ascribed to. You find you're in party A, but you ascribe to party B. Could that pose a challenge when it comes to the election that we are headed to?
It will indeed pose a big challenge. And of course, as you're aware, that issue was a public debate. And of course, now the question, who owns then our details? How did I find myself registered in Party X, for instance, without my knowledge? Again, it comes about the trust to institutions. And like I said, some of the trust deficits are occasioned from such kind of things that are happening. And I'm happy that the office of the registrar took that seriously, and that issue was addressed. And I'm sure that moving forward, we don't want to have such things happening.
But the timelines are quite tight. Looking at if we'll have a mass voter registration. We also have the cleaning up of the records and the register. And we're still in campaigns, and we still have to do the elections in August. The timelines are quite tight.
They are tight, but they can be done.
Okay.
They are tight, they can be done. Because of course the law provides timelines within which we must stop registering voters. Then it provides for cleaning up of the register. It then provides also members of the public to interrogate the register. And even ELOG, as ELOG, we will also conduct an independent audit of that register to ascertain whether it is complete, whether it is efficient and accurate. So those timelines, if we respect them, as we've said earlier on, if we provide money in good time, allow the commission to conduct a comprehensive voter registration that must also be targeted, because we've learned from our observation that there is historical pattern of some voters disenfranchised. So we want that, we have actually recommended that the mass voter registration should also be targeted to be able to reach out to more women, reach out to more youth, reach out to people living with disabilities, reach out to minorities and marginalized communities. So even as we do the mass voter registration, it should also be targeted. Now, if we provide enough resources in good time, allow the commission to do the mass voter registration, allow it to clean out the register, allow the citizens to interrogate the register and speak to the register, then allow independent organizations or agencies to also interrogate the register. We still have a good time, and the register is a big thing. It's a big thing, and I think it must be, and I'm happy that the Court of Appeal singled that out as something that must, and I'm sure IBC is taking it very seriously.
I'm quite sure now that it will be fully constituted, but they will have to actually move with speed, even working even 24 hours. Let's get back to figures and trust issues. What is making the Kenyan model of election become one of the most expensive in the world, and Africa as well, is the printing of the ballot papers. We had issues. Do you remember the chicken gate scandal, which has never actually been finalized right here in Kenya? It was finalized there in UK, but we are yet to see heads roll in Kenya. We print our own currency here in Kenya, Delaru. why can't we opt for printing of those ballot papers right here in the country so that we may be able to bring the cost down? If we can trust ourselves with money.
Then I agree with you. I mean, it's one of addressing the cost of elections in this country. And I can assure you, if we were to print our ballot papers in this country, the cost of the cost would come down by probably half, or probably by a quarter, if you will. But again, the trust issue. Imagine if we were to know why they're printing the ballot papers in this country. You will see men in green going there and messing up. Our appetite for bad manners. We have a very high appetite for bad manners as Kenyans, and that bad manners is permeating every aspect of our life, including politics. But I think ultimately we must. I think for me, this is what I want to say, Ben. If we can make political office less lucrative, you'll have no major issue. Today, we've made political office to be held with high esteem. It has serious benefits that the guys holding those offices are enjoying. So then people fight for it, including going to burn even a building that they know is printing the papers. If I can't get it, you won't get it either. Because we've made of course, our political class are one of the best paid in Africa, of course.
Yes. So
when you make it a lucrative business, if you will, then people will fight for it. Yeah, but it will be a nice consideration. I've had the commission say that even the servers will be hosted here in Kenya. And if they can host the server in Kenya, they can print it in Kenya. Why not?
And we'll bring the cost down.
Down by, I can assure you, by a quarter. Not less than a quarter.
I'm looking at the Iebc calendar, where, according to Iebc election operations, planned nomination for presidential candidate will take place between May 30th and June 10th. Of course, if you're a civil servant and you want to vie for any positions, you have until February the 9th. So you have a couple of months. Looking at this whole calendar, do you think we are going to beat that time? There's so much to do. I'm looking at this. There's so much.
I think we can. The only interruption, in my view, could be two. First, you've seen the push to let the Chebukati and his team go home. They are section the political elite.
Yes.
Now, if you are to send away the commission home again, that means we'll not go back to the challenges of quorum again, it's just going to be dirty, as it were. So if the present commission were to be sent home, that will affect those timelines. The second issue is what I told about, the issue of resources. If we don't avail those resources to the commission in good time, again, those timelines will be affected. The third issue is last-minute amendment to the election law, which, as you're aware, we have always, like I said, we have always done the same thing every now and then. We change laws to the last minute. Now, when you change the rules of the game, very close to a game, you confuse everyone. You confuse the players, you confuse the referee, you confuse the spectators and supporters in a game. The rules of the game must be clear, must be predictable, must be transparent, long way before the game is nearer. We know what offside is. We know what it means to score a goal. We know. So if you change those rules very close to an election or to a game, you confuse everything. So again, that's a major. You saw in 2017, the laws were changed the last minute. Every actor of that election was put to confusion. So if we can address those three issues, I think we can meet those timelines by the IEBC.
Now we are staring into another bigger problem. The commissioners will, after we are done with the 2022 election, when we are just about the 2027 election, there will be actually their term will have lapsed.
The three.
We will now have another challenge, because the two who are remaining plus the chairman will have already completed their term. Are we staring at another problem, though in the next 5 years?
I don't think we will. If now we have a framework which was ascended to law by the president, hence now bringing this forth.
Yes.
Now, if that framework is followed, I don't think we'll have a problem. There was only a problem, one, when we never, you see, all the commission in the previous elections, all the commissioners came on one day. As in, they came all of them at once.
So they have to leave.
They have to leave at once.
Yes.
When they leave at once, you have no memory. You have no continuity. That has been addressed somehow in this dispensation, because now we have got the Chebukati and the other two guys who will be leaving after 2023. Then you have got these new ones who are coming. Give them 5 years from the time of the appointment. So that means that by 2023, the law should be self-effecting, so that then a process is put in place to replace the three. Yeah, so
but we haven't instituted that yet.
No, but I think by I think we have, because that's how we went. I had constituted the panel, invited applicants, they shortlisted, names were given to the president. Now the parliament voted them yesterday. I think that's a good start.
Okay,
it's a good start.
So I will really tie that good start, as you've put it, to what the president did, and it was pointed out by the Court of Appeal, is that there were vacancies at the IEBC 3 years ago. The president had 1 week to announce that the positions were vacant, but did not do that. And now we are facing challenges in IEBC, and we are just adding challenges that IEBC are facing. This is another challenge.
I agree, and that's why I say that if we could, of course, there were a number of people, guys offered different views, whether there was a proper legislative framework to bring in a new commission in place. That was discussed, or the president just sat on that law and didn't want to institute a selection panel. That was also discussed. But that as it may, we already have a bill. The bill that was speaking to the selection of a panel was signed by the president. So now it's a law. So my hope is that even as we move into future elections, until that time that this law is amended, it will be respected as is, and once a vacant position has been declared vacant, we must move with speed to replace the commissioners.
But these challenges have faced IEBC since the days of Kevoito, when it was ECK. Then we went to the interim independent election.
The ISAC commission. So we had ISAC 1, ISAC 2.
Yes, we had 1 and 2.
Yeah, and then we have Chebukati.
The same challenges. It's more or less seems like
I agree. I mean, since 1997, let me just say, since the advent of multi-party democracy in Kenya, we have always changed the commission. I think Kenya is one of those few countries in the world that in every election cycle we change. We think the problem is the commission. And therefore, so if the commission is the problem, you send them away. Again, there is no, like I've said, we cannot be changing the commissions every election cycle. Then that means something's not working. Something's not working. You can't be the ones changing every time we change the commission. And that can't be allowed to happen. There must be consistency, there must be respect over these institutions, and let us ensure that we have a process that brings in place good people to head those, to be in charge. And of course, avoid I mean, Kenya. In Kenya, elections are really, really high stakes, as you're aware. And today you wake up and say Chebukati must go home. Tomorrow you say Chebukati is good, depending on who is on whose side. We cannot dismiss the commission at will. It can't happen. So we must respect those institutions that we have created. If they're not working for us, then we change those institutions. If you want elections to be conducted by another body, please bring in through a legal process, bring those new changes, but don't kick them out at will because you are not happy with what they said.
Yes, we are always changing after every election cycle, and it's supposed to be independent, as we say. Iebc is the only commission that has the independent. Indeed, we are coming back with this discussion. I can see Zeki Setet, you say you are locked. Remember, we are also live on Twitter and also on YouTube. In case you joined us, this is Newscheck, and we are looking at Roadmap 2022, the election preparedness. Are we set? Of course, Iebc is almost fully constituted, one of the major challenge when it comes to elections in the election cycle we have here in Kenya. We will be back with more.
Chumbani kwangu chakule namna unavyotaka bwana.
Mimi na uhakika na kile ambacho nilikiona. Mbona uniamini wewe?
Mtoto mzuri, laini, lakini una ushamba kani nini? Unaga swaga wewe.
Una nini Pili? Una nini wewe na mimi?
Si nimekwambia mtu wa maombi amekuja tuombe.
Maombi gani bwana? I've got real problems in this house bwana.
Sasa nikaogopa upe tu kusinitachunguliwa mimi. Utachunguliwa na nani? Ukichungulia na wewe chungulia.
Kwani kutoka kwangu na kuingia kwangu lazima nikwambie wewe?
Ni vile Auntie Pili alikuwa yakuletea mgeni. Tiketi ni mamako.
Quiero amarte de una forma diferente, de otro modo.
Because if he isn't released from prison because he doesn't want your sacrifice, it is not my problem, Amaya.
Of course it is, Cesar. Because remember that until Max is out, the Star Zone is never going to be yours. Do you understand?
But Amaya's land will give me the power that I want. Supremacy over all of you. Forget about it. You and I are not going to make a deal.
He's going to have a big surprise when he finds out that the Star Zone doesn't only belong to you.
Wait, I don't get it. If it doesn't belong to me, to whom else? As far as I know, Valeria and I are the only living relatives of Florencio Martinez.
Quiero amarte de una forma diferente, de otro modo, nunca igual al de otra gente.
Welcome back. This is KBC Newscheck, and in case you just joined us, we are looking at the roadmap to 2022 election. Of course, Iebc always on the receiving end, but we are hoping that being the most expensive election in Africa and ranking highly, the second in the world, it will be the best without the current violent cycle and without all the challenges that are actually met during election. And I'm joined by ELOG Programs Director Marcus Agenga, who is actually trying to make us understand what happens even behind the cycle before you even cast your vote. And before the break, there's some during the break there's some issues we were looking at, and you do remember there are some let's say rhetoric or some words that politicians say, and actually they aid in making the political scene a little bit vile or a little bit bitter. And talk about I can move to court, I can move to parliament to try and change the election date. It's a discussion that has been there for the last couple of weeks, and the president, the day before yesterday, talked about no, I'm exiting office after I'm done. These are some of the things that aid in making the political temperatures a little bit bitter.
I agree, Ben, and I'm happy that the president, in his address the day before yesterday, tackled on that topic. Honestly, we shouldn't be seen to having this discussion or even entertaining the thought that elections should be postponed. We shouldn't. And of course they are giving a number of reasons. If you had the discussion before, some are saying the president hasn't served his 5 terms because he was sworn in much more later than he was elected, so he needs to serve his 5 terms. They are saying, you see, we're in the middle of a calamity. The COVID-19 pandemic is a serious issue that has disrupted our lives. So in the middle of a pandemic, the law envisions, they say, a possibility of postponing an election. Thirdly, they are speaking about boundaries. Some constituencies or boundaries need to be reviewed. So if we were to go to this election without reviewing those boundaries, delimitation is a big issue they are raising. But now, those 3 issues, however justified they may be, do not warrant a postponement of an election. Let me tell you, on the issue that we are battling a pandemic, we've had countries in Africa that have held elections. We just speak about Zambia.
Yes.
Just held this election in the middle of COVID-19. You just had Uganda, our neighbor here. You had Ethiopia doing the same. You had, even back in our country, the commission has conducted by elections.
Yes.
A number of
actually gearing up for a referendum.
A referendum, of course. So the idea of COVID pandemic, while it's a big issue, of course, there are protocols that Iebc has put in place, and we observed them when we were in those by-elections, and we were satisfied that Iebc has put in place good protocols that are be able to contain the spread of coronavirus in those polling stations. Of course, moving forward, Iebc will have to come up with a proper and more sustained measures and structures that, by-elections are smaller, they're fewer, so you can be able to be keen. But when you have a national election like we will have, it's going to call the commission to work even stronger. And hence, you see that the amount of money they were suggesting to buy the PPEs during the by-election. So I think that's a big issue. But we shouldn't entertain the thought of postponing an election, because the contract that we have given our leaders is 5 years. When the term goes, they go home.
Okay. And perhaps before we wrap up, what are some of the challenges? Or perhaps I'm informed that we are supposed to be headed, remember CS Magoha had organized a presser together with the NCCK in matters actually at the General Assembly at the Jumuiya conference right here. Let's first of all hear what he has to say, then we wrap up.
2022. And the footprint of 100% transition is already there because we have a 10.28% increase between last year and this year. So all those busybodies who are self-proclaimed experts, I think the people should ignore them. Our job is to continue to ensure that all children who complete Standard 8 transit to Form 1. And beyond that, any child that has been out of school for whatever reason is mopped back to school. We started this exercise 2 days ago on Monday. In the coast, I still have Dr. Sarah Ruto based in Kilifi, and I have Dr. Gaturu based in Kwale, and I have Adan Duale, Director of Field Operations based in Mombasa. And the reason for this is that the percentages for the coast are still very low, averaging between 70 and 60. Before I talk about what we are doing today, I want to give you a bird's eye view of the counties that have reached 100% in order to remove the myth. I know from my head, without even looking, that the Nyeri County is at number 1, and it is not just at 100%. Nyeri County is at 102%, which means it has mopped up all the children and also welcomed children from other places. You also have Nyamira County in this region, which has reached 100%. And we are grateful for the leadership of government, both Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Interior. For Mandera, which is in the far north, has reached 100.14. We are also very grateful for the leadership in Bomet, which has reached 100. And then the others, which are between 95 and 99, are Nyandarua, Kisii, and Wajir, another one which you would have imagined is not doing very well, has actually reached 99.82%. And not to bore you, I will just tell you, Homa Bay, which is also from this county, together with Kirinyaga, Migori, and Kiambu, are all above 96%. Therefore, for us, as public servants, ours is to serve everybody. The reason I chose to come here this morning is because Kisumu is still at 82%. And I knew that Kisumu is at 82% because of the slums, where you have very intelligent children. I found 2 girls here with over 350 marks. And we are going to make sure that they go to a government school, and we shall provide a scholarship for them. We have also found another gentleman. What was your score?
255.
Yes. No, you are not the one. I don't know you. When Mjinga kutoka wapi?
299.
What was your score?
299.
I've got another boy of 299. We are taking him to Kisumu Boys, and another girl who will be taken to a day school. But over and above this, I want to say this, Mr. Machocho, and the Ministry of Interior officials headed by the County Commissioner here, represented by the Deputy County Commissioner, that this is an exercise that must continue until every county reaches 100%. I would like to re-emphasize, without the mockery of the people that are saying it is far much better for our children to be in school than to be loitering in the slums. Government is providing money, and I want to say this for the purposes of disabusing the minds of the people. And we were in London with His Excellency the President and many other countries when we were raising money for poor children. And Kenya is the one that is providing the highest amount of capitation for education in the whole of Africa. So do not listen to the evil naysayers, because they actually don't know what they are talking about. We shall continue to do this for our children, because children don't belong to political parties, and we must serve them irrespective of where they come from. From here, I intend to visit the slums of Kiandutu and Witemere probably on Monday or Tuesday, because the children are breaking for half term. You will be asking, why am I taking these ones to school today? They must be registered and given uniform, and then when they break and report to school on Monday as the bona fide students. Thank you very much.
What is the timeline for the mop-up, because schools are breaking for half term?
The timeline for the mop-up now, if they were not breaking up, and you know why they are breaking up early, is because the term has been shortened because of COVID, isn't it? But we will work with what we have. So, by the grace of God, when the schools reopen again, my team and everybody else will continue. We have people in Nairobi, we have people in all parts of the country, and I would like to ask those education people and quality assurance people and TSA people who are in those counties that are already 100%, if you are in a neighboring county that has not reached 100%, can you move to that county to help mop up? We shall mop up until it is 100%. Thank you very much.
The straight talking, tough talking education CS, Professor George Magoha from Nyalenda in Kisumu, actually in the spirit of ensuring 100% transition from primary to secondary schools. He has ensured that he has put his officers in strategic places to ensure that pupils who are eligible to be in school are eligible. Talked about counties like Kirinyaga County doing quite well, and Kiambu as well. Of course, that we will be touching a little bit deeper on that with my second guest, who we will be talking to in the next couple of minutes. But before we do that, let's wrap up this discussion. And I'm joined, of course, by Marcus from ELOG. Of course, when it comes to matters election observation. You have been there for the last 10 years. What are some of the challenges that observers experience, especially during elections? We know in Uganda, we just saw them because the international observers were kicked out. What challenges have you faced during the elections and, of course, the by-elections that you have been observing?
Of course.
And then the same, please kindly touch on the national values and ethos. It was mentioned pronouncedly during the BBI debate, but
let me start with the national values, of course. And this relates to the topic we're discussing about leadership and integrity. How come that we have a number of leaders who appear, who have been summoned to answer to some of the integrity issues? Where were we when they were being elected? Who elected them into office? And I can assure some of them will come back in various positions in the next government after 2022. So now, I think we need, as a country, to normalize these national values that we have in our constitution. Not so much is being spoken by political leaders about those values.
Yes.
There is, you'll hear the issues about economy, the issue about education, the issue about religion, but no one is investing some sort of an ethical paradigm shift within the population. There's a national, like I said, where is the rage? You hear corruption charges, you hear leaders accused of corruption, of aiding in killing fellow human beings, in sustaining lies and all the sorts of bad behavior. Where is the rage? Where is the national rage? Why are Kenyans not getting unhappy? Why are we not unhappy the way the country is moving, or the way in which our leaders are moving? And that takes us back to the national values. And therefore, the call here is to look at those values, espouse them, and live them. Because if each one of us takes those values seriously and live by them, the way we take a Bible or Quran and live by them, at a civil sphere, those values become our Bible or the Quran.
Indeed.
And therefore, just urge our guys to take that seriously. But back to the problems or the challenges that we have faced. I think for ALOG, it's been one of the issues is about security of our observers. We've had observers arrested.
Yes.
Before, being thought to be representing a political candidate. We had an observer killed in Kisumu in 2017. Okay. That was the lowest point for ALOG, because of politically instigated clashes. We've had issues about trust about observers, of course. Yes. You saw in 2017, the courts ruled that the president was not validly elected and therefore ordered a fresh election. The observers, it was reported by you guys that the observers gave a clear verdict. So we were bashed. So when they were saying observers are not wanted here, they didn't spare us, even though the call was more to international observers, but we are all observers at the end of the day. So there is a public perception that observers, and of course I speak about ALOG, that people are quite not understood the work we do. No. What is the role of observer? What are we able to do and what can't we do? At what point are we able to, for instance, the transmission of results, for instance, at what point is an observer able to speak to the transmission? So there is still misunderstanding around the role of observer and the work we can do moving forward. But I think that as we move forward, we can discuss some of those challenges. Indeed. And what we are putting in place to address them.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you indeed, Marcus Agenga from ELOG is the program's manager there. And of course, we were putting into perspective election and how prepared are we as a country? Less than 12 months. That's where we put a cap on that discussion. But when we come back, we will be talking to George Mugo, an educationist. Let's look at the progress of the school calendar. Of course, this is the first time that we've been seeing the shortest holiday, because we expect by the year 2022, the election calendar that was disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic will be up and running just as we were doing before the COVID struck. Thank you indeed so much for watching, but don't go away. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Welcome back. This is indeed Newscheck, and as I had alluded to, is that now we are shifting focus to education matters. We are looking at the progress of the education calendar. Of course, the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted everything, including education. And George Mugo, karibu sana.
Asante.
Asante,
Mr. Troy.
First things first, what do you make of CS Magoha mop-up exercise?
I like, first of all, of course, let me say, my parents taught me, do not antagonize the incumbent authority on what they're doing. So I really like to appreciate CS Magoha for what he's doing in this team. I like the way he's talked about the percentages, 100% transition and things like that. That's what I've had on the clip, right? However, based on where I am right now, like I've invested in the education industry for over about, opened my school in 1999. So it's quite, I've seen the transitions all along, right? There's one thing that has changed this whole dynamics, of education: quality. All right, you can have 100% transition wherever, okay, but the quality is not there, or it's actually non-existing. Okay, for example, I hail from Kajiado County, Kajiado North constituency, Olkeri Ward, and we have a couple of schools there, of course, public and private. All right, the school that I run, in a class, you find we have about 30 to 35, all right? A good number whereby teachers and pupils can be able to interact very well. But then you go to another school in the same county, the same class, you find the same, like now, for example, if we take an example of grade 1, you find grade 1, in my place, we have about 30 to 35. Of course, I cannot compare per se, but then when you go to the public school, you find there about 80 to 100 in a class. How do you quantize the quality? How do you match the quality? How do you bring out the quality? All right. So yes, they are doing a good job, but the quality aspect is a problem. And you see, as a matter, there's this guy called, of course, not this guy per se, Nelson Mandela. He said, education is the most powerful weapon that you will use to be able to change a society, right? And it must be done in a quality way. You have to invest it nicely, all right? You have to put resources in it and make it look, make it come out very, very strongly, all right? But then when that is not there, yes, we have, like I was taking my son to high school in the first week of August, all right? I took him to a school in Ruiru, and the class, the Form 1 class, yes, it's a private school. The Form 1 class has got about 20 to 25. In other schools, we went to tour in Embu. You find a class has got about 600 intakes. How do you match that? How do you quantize that, right? So yes, it's good, 100% transition. The PR is good.
Yes, and still on the same, of course, Kajiado, he had earlier released some of the counties that are not quite doing very well when it comes to 100% transition, and looking at some of the ESO region, the arid and semi-arid regions. Of course, very, very, very dismal performances. Even in national examination, what more could be done? They introduced even the school feeding programs. What more can be done? And especially, we've talked about Kajiado. Of course, part of Kajiado is quite developed and other is quite marginalized.
Let me tell you, Troy, having the experience that I've had, okay, of course, in school we'll deal a lot with politics. Pupil politics, parent politics, teacher politics. There's one thing I've come to realize where I sit. Separate between management and education. If a school is a school, let the core business be the school, all right? And let other things be dealt with a separate team, which is a management team. That way, you'll be able to improve the quality. For example, why do you have a principal in a public school, then you've assigned that principal about 3 million, and this is not in a bad way, okay, I'm just putting facts on the table. You assign this guy about 3 million bob, okay, for each of the pupils, okay. How do you expect that guy? He does not have training in management. He does not have training in resources per se. He does not have training in cash flow and things like that, how to do balance sheets and etc. How do you assign him that amount of money and expect him to perform? He won't. He won't. And that's why, allow me to probably digress a little bit. There's this CS, I think Wamalwa, he mentioned about the feeding program.
Yes.
I think it was about 2 weeks ago. He said in those areas where the drought is affecting so much, they have allocated about 500 million, all right?
And of course, that will actually also aid, because some of the schools we are seeing having feeding programs are registering a lot of good numbers of pupils in school.
Yes, which is good, and he's put about 100,000, I think it was about 100,000 families. So I was doing the math the other day, and I saw each family is getting 5,000 bob, okay? Now, how do you, if you have a separate management team, you can be able to manage that money better than allocating it to somebody individually or somebody who does not have training per se in handling matters cash, okay? It's just about management, period.
What is the current situation? You know, we have now Form 1s, a new crop of pupils joining Form 1s. They insisted that schools, it's a good thing you have a school. They have insisted that you have to observe the COVID-19 protocols. We've seen even some schools making makeshift houses to house perhaps some of the students, are they better infrastructure? Perhaps the government should chip in making sure that at least we have better infrastructure. Now that we have COVID, things have to go on, but things have to go differently.
Yeah, I like that question. Let me approach it from this perspective. The President, Honorable Uhuru, he shut the economy, quote unquote, in March, was it last year, right? As a school, what did we do? We didn't just sit there. Okay, because it was shut down about March 15th. Yeah, we didn't just stay. Okay, we have established a studio, something like this. Okay, just but a bit smaller. Okay, where we were able to interact with our kids virtually.
Okay.
Yeah. What am I saying? The government can be able to invest more and put more attention in virtual schools, especially high school. Virtual schools. You wait for the holiday. During the holiday season, you find every child has got a phone. Most of them are iPhones. What does that mean? It means they can be able to, they understand technology, they understand how it works. Yeah, like for us, we had all our kids we got them enrolled in email. Got them a Gmail, okay? And then, of course, we planned with their parents to have at least internet and things like that, yeah? So they'll be able to, a teacher will be able to come to school and be able to teach while in school virtually, okay? If we can be able to do that, if the government can give like attention to that, yes, it is 100%
like
transition.
Incentives, right?
Exactly, like an incentive. And in this case, they partner with private schools, okay? Because like now, I only have about 300 kids, okay? A school next, you'll find they have about 2,000, 3,000 kids. Why can't the government partner with me? I have the capacity, I have the resources to be able to reach out to some of the kids so that it decongests, okay? It decongests that 100% transition and introduce an aspect of quality.
Yeah.
Yes, and that the quality aspect makes it now more sustainable.
And,
right?
and still on quality, looking at the pupils or students from arid and semi-arid regions, and where you're talking about a class having over 100 pupils, remember the same examination, the same curriculum, but of course a different situation. How can we make it at least a little bit balanced for these students? Those ones are from arid and semi-arid regions, and these ones others from at least schools like Kirinyaga County, Kiambu County, which have been mentioned as one of the leading counties in terms of 100% absorption in schools.
Yeah, maybe let me answer that question this way, and forgive me for saying this. I'm aspiring to hopefully vie for a seat in Kajiado North constituency. And
MP?
Not MP, Member of Parliament. And one of the things that I was thinking about is, you see, we have the CDF fund, all right? Like currently, I think it has been, the Act allows about 138 million, okay? For such areas, increase that amount, all right? Once you increase that amount, get professionals, get a management team to go there and manage that cash. Why? Right now, we have Honorable Manje, whom I respect very much, and I like the way he is pro-education, okay? And he's given that fund, all right?
At least making sure students are learning.
Sure the students are learning, all right? Now, once he's given that fund, it is for him and his ideas and his team to be able to manage that fund, okay? Now, the more you give him that amount, the more probably classes he'll be able to build.
So you say that even it comes to, like, of course, the CDF, as part of it goes to bursaries.
Yes.
You're saying more funds should be allocated into bursaries?
Yes, more funds should be allocated to bursaries. However, one of the things that I was thinking about, and it's one of my agendas, is maybe we tweak the bursary connotation a bit.
But they've been actually, they have really helped. Yeah, sometimes we found that they don't land in the right hands. You saw a case study where a student who qualified and passed cannot access bursaries.
Let me explain to you what I'm thinking about, because I've issued, in my capacity, we've supported quite a couple of pupils. Like every year we support about a minimum of 14 on bursaries at my place. And of course, from a personal capacity, I have given some support to a few pupils here and there. And this is what we came up with a few friends of mine. We take the bursary giant or bursary thing, all right, let me call it thing, split it into two, and give it, or rather change its name, call it scholarships. Okay, scholarships. All right.
You're saying this now should be replicated in other forums, right?
Not necessarily replicated. Just change the notion of bursary, because the first thing is you see, like if you have a student and they want support, and you'll always have in mind that nitapewa bursary. Okay, so you'll go to your member of parliament and get bursary. Okay, but then if you think of it this way, make it like a scholarship thing, all right? Then separate the bursary into two aspects, okay? Number one, support a child based on performance, all right? Number two, separate it and then support a child based on the need. For example, if he comes from a single parent family, if they're supported by grandparents and things like that.
Kindly hold the thought, because Interior CES Dr. Fred Matiang'i has already arrived at Jumia Conference and County Home, and now is currently addressing the National Youth Conference. Let's first of all listen in before we come back to this discussion.
Okay. For me, through my sister and my colleague in government, our Principal Secretary for CBC and Reform, Professor Fatuma Chege. But I also came along with the young people we have in government, the ones that we work with. Because, as I will tell you shortly, there's nothing more powerful than the power of example, as it were. It's true that in certain cases in our society, young people give up. And ask me, I see this all the time. I have young police officers who graduate from college. We post them to difficult places, and when they encounter personal challenges, some of them we try hard, we help, some get discouraged and get frustrated. Maybe we haven't given them a good example, maybe we need to do more. But I am grateful to His Excellency our President, because he decided that the message about youth participation in government is not going to be theoretical, he's going to make it practical. For the first time since independence, the last time we had young people in government, the likes of Dr. Julius Gikonyo Kiano, Stanley Matiba, at the beginning of this country. The president changed tune and brought young people to government so that we work with them, mentor them, so that we prepare ministers for tomorrow. And I brought 3 of them with me here so that you can see these people. Each one of them, and there are quite a number of people, I love them all and I love working with them. They're very energetic, they have good ideas, and always available to get some stuff done, which is the spirit of youth that we all really admire. So before I say something, with your kind indulgence, I'll just donate 6 of my minutes so that I allow the 3 of them to take 2 minutes each to speak to you. I'm accompanied by Zach Kinuthia, who's going to be the first one to speak, our Assistant Minister for Sports and Culture, and I'll invite him to come over and greet you and say something to you young people who are here. After that, I'll invite my sister, my younger sister, who has become a poster child of successful youth participation in government, our very own Assistant Minister for Health, Dr. Mercy Mwangangi, who's here. And I'll finish by introducing our other Assistant Minister for Trade, Mr. David Osianya, the tomboy of this day. You know, young people who are in government, articulate, energetic, serving their country. And I'm doing this so that you can see, one, that the president doesn't talk about it, he does it. Two, that it can actually happen. And we are all together. There is nothing like youth cannot do it. They can do it. They are doing it. Zach.
Thank you very much, Cabinet Secretary Interior, Chairman of the NCCK, Secretary General, and all the faithfuls this morning. Good morning. God is good, and all the time. Because I have 2 minutes and I have to be within the 2 minutes, please stand with me in the book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 28. By the way, in my earlier life, I was an evangelist specializing in exorcism. Joel chapter 2, verse 28. And the Bible says, "And it shall come to pass afterwards that I will pour out my spirit upon all the flesh."
That is Youth CS Zach Kinuthia there, starting with, of course, a funny one. But anyway, the youth conference being held at Njue, and of course being officiated by Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i, just being able to pick out a few young CSs, and also Kenyan said, "Youth, you can make it." We will be getting back to get his sentiments on the same in that conference, but we are headed back to our conversation where we are discussing the progress of education, and especially in the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm joined by George Mugo, who is an educationist, and of course before we crossed over to the Jumia, you were talking about bursaries. Kindly, you can wrap up on the same.
Yes, so I was saying we take, when the bursary kitty comes, and when the member of parliament is allocating, like what I would plan to do. Let me not talk on the incumbent on what he has done, but let me talk on what I would do. All right, I would have that kitty in two aspects. Performance-based and need-based. Performance-based is, for example, you have your daughter. Your daughter has gotten A in KCPE, or your daughter has gotten in the national exam. Your daughter has gotten maybe C-, all right, and things like that. And you may not necessarily have that background of financial muscle, okay? So you come and apply for bursary. I give you based on your performance. If you get A, if you have an A, then you get 100%. Not even you get the
same way like we have some institutions like the
Wings to Fly. Perfect. Something like that. Okay. And we did that once in 2015. There's one girl who was given just a full percent scholarship. So that because lately when I go on ground, people tell me, "Oh, we've been given 3,000 bob, we've been given 5,000 bob," and it doesn't work. It's not sustainable. Okay. The second part is need-based, and this is now where we come and say, "Are you a single father? Are you struggling?" Okay. This is what we can give you. Are you a single mother? This is what we can give you. Are you supporting? Is your parents? The orphans, grandparents, things like that. That is not now the need based. Okay, and at the end of the day, it has to be scholarship based, whereby when you get into Form 1, we support you until you finish.
Okay.
Yes.
And let's now look at the progress. Of course, the COVID-19 pandemic is still with us, and it looks like it's going to be here for a while. But the school calendar had to be twacked in a way that it would accommodate each and everyone when it comes to education matters. Now, beginning today, they're having the half-term.
Yes, tomorrow.
It's tomorrow.
It's 26th,
Yes, from tomorrow they will be at home.
Yes.
And you know very well that they could. We had a school in Makueni
which had registered almost 40 students who had COVID. Remember, now they are coming home in the middle of a pandemic. The government hasn't said anything yet, but of course they are going to come back. How do we ensure that they don't pick up the virus and bring it back to school? And what measure, as an educationist and a person, a proprietor with a school, what measures perhaps have you put in? Some can pick some few notes.
Okay, good, thank you. Of course, we have done the normal protocols that the CS of Health has advised, and the Ministry of Health. That one we are on point. Washing of hands, masks, temperature in the buses, and all that. Yeah. Another thing we have done, as at, when is today? We are on Wednesday. As at Monday, all my teachers were vaccinated. Okay, all of them. Yeah, so at least that one I'm good. I know we are good on that. All right, but probably this on this other part, because it's still let me say, quote unquote, and not in a bad way, it's still an experiment in the making. Okay, it would be good probably to have the kids tested randomly. You see the way we see every day the figures 1,000, something like that. Yeah, so we have the team that does that testing to go. Maybe in fact the CS can establish another team to focus on schools only. Yeah, no, like we have. Down here we have the number. I usually see when you guys put the captions. Okay, so down there we have, instead of total number of adults, oh, this is touch screen, sorry, total number of adults and total number of children, we have total number of students. Okay, who have contracted COVID, and then now from there it is more easier to manage. Usually it is easier from my perspective when you know the numbers, then you're able to manage them well. Again, going back to management. Yes.
And of course, CS Magoha, in his efforts, and he talked about all the counties, at least we are over 50%, not even 50%. Some counties are registering 100% transition. And there are challenges. Should we perhaps divert more resources to counties, mostly the ASL, as he has mentioned?
Yes. Let me answer that in two parts. Yeah. Yes, we should, and yes, we can. Okay, divert. But then, how are those funds being used? All right. Now, let's go on ground. Let's just do a simulation and go on ground. I'm an electrical engineer by profession, and I graduated from Moy University, then took a master's at Daystar University, though I have not defended yet. I did it in mass communication. And one of the experiences that I had when I was still growing my career is, like, for example, I worked as an engineer for about 5 years, okay? And there was once we went to the airport, and we were given, I used to work for a telecommunication company, all right? And we were given a project by Safaricom to install this, they're called masts. Telecommunication masts, okay? Now, those masts have got equipment. Those equipment, that equipment must be housed, okay? So our work was to go and prefabricate houses to house the equipment, okay? So taking from the same technology, they're called modular houses, all right? Modular buildings, all right? So go on ground for you to have that, so that when CS Magoha says we have 100% transition, yes, we go on ground, we see the transition, all right? We don't go to ground and see pupils. You saw Afghanistan the other day, when American left Afghanistan, and you saw the airport. There was a caption where there was a picture, and Afghans were in.
Let's not make a lot of students at once, just to make sure it's 100%.
Yes.
And perhaps to shift focus on the crowding itself. The calendar now is not quite friendly. We had 3 terms in a year. Now we have more than that. And you find that 1 week or 2 weeks holiday, the students, the teachers, the subordinate staff, what about the fatigue? Have you noticed that? It's so crowded. Has it affected you?
Yes.
Because right now they have
Yes.
What?
Yes.
3-4 days?
Yes, it
We
has.
had a 1-week holiday.
Yeah.
The fatigue.
Yes,
Let's
it
look at the
has.
human resources as well.
What maybe I can say on that is the moment, and there was a reason why we had these long holidays, so that the staff can steam off. Okay, so you will find because the system has started and people are starting to feel the pressure. Okay, soon towards the end of the year, you'll start seeing the reaction when people are pressured from teachers and students. You'll start seeing the reaction. People will look for a place to steam off because of the pressure, because you can't pump so much into a child. They will react, or they'll lose. Like, for example, you go to a class. We have just finished the first term, the first half of the term. Now we are getting into the second half. All right, towards the end, you go to class in the afternoon and you look and observe and see nobody's paying attention. The teacher is just teaching.
Yes.
All right, that's a negative recall. All right, however, we have to, I don't know what exactly will come out of it, because Magoha and his team, I think they were doing a simulation, and it may not have necessarily been critically looked at, yeah, on the impact, the negative impact that it will. And then now we have COVID. So combine the pressure, it's called what, the congestion in class,
yes,
pressure of the term, then put COVID. Disaster. Yeah. However, there's a solution.
Yes.
It's not that we know, as engineers we are taught you have to come up with solutions.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah?
And there are some schools actually who have mental health classes, doctors.
Yes. So this is my proposal and my opinion. Of course, number one, I mentioned it. Embrace virtual schools. All right. Like, for example, these upper classes, class 6, grade 6, 7, and 8, and even the high schools, all right? When they go home, they can be extended. Their term can be extended, yeah, at home. But it's extended virtually for those who are able to, okay? And it may not be implemented right now, but it's something that can be looked at in the future. 2, partner with private schools. That, if you do that, bring partners, private school stakeholders, sit down, say, guys, we have a problem. How do we sort it out? All right? What is your opinion? Because private schools, as we speak, have capacity. They have capacity to decongest. They have capacity.
Better infrastructure.
Yes, and better infrastructure. They have capacity to implement the virtual classes. All right? Yeah. They have that capacity. So we sit down and say, tell the CS Treasury, yeah, to allocate, or Parliament, to allocate, and now that it's in that context, to allocate a certain fund for private schools. Okay, a couple of them closed. If those private schools did not close, some of those pupils around there would have been absorbed. You get? Yes. So get Parliament to sit down and say, we have a crisis here. How do we sort it out? Let's allocate 10 billion for private schools. Now, how they will manage it? Of course, they sit down with stakeholders because they are educated. They know what they are doing. Yeah. Okay, they're private school. I'm an engineer, so I've private school stakeholders they're sharp. They know what they're doing. Okay. Allow them to access those funds. Let them expand their schools, and let the government absorb. We have this code called NEMIS. You know how it works. You've heard of it.
Yes.
All right. You know how it works. Yeah. So we log in every child who comes to school. We admit, we log them into the NEMIS system. Okay. Once we log them in, from a private perspective, they may not be able to have much impact, but in the public aspect or sector, there is much impact. Why? Because they are able to allocate funds. Yeah, they know maybe Olekasasi or Kangemi Primary School or Turkana High School has got this number of people, okay, this number of pupils. So when they are allocating funds, they'll know we are sending funds to this number of pupils. That way, things will be able to run more.
We've talked about virtual learning, and of course, a lot of schools and universities, for that matter, have embraced it. Now we have CBC, which is more hands-on than the 844 system that we had. And now we are in the middle of a pandemic. What can you say in regards to the CBC curriculum and the COVID-19, now that we have to embrace technology and do things virtually, and we need things hands-on? You've also done thesis, so you know very well a lot is hands-on as opposed to virtual learning. Without compromising the quality of education.
Now, the guys who implemented the spirit of CBC, let me put it that way. The spirit of CBC had a good, or has a good heartbeat to it, all right? Why? Because, like, for example, when I was in primary school, I did home science, I did music, I did all those things. Right now, actually, I have a studio. I've invested a little bit in the entertainment industry, and that originated from the things that I learned when I was in primary school. So the spirit of CBC is good. Okay. However, I wouldn't have much per se to say on the relationship. I would want to continue supporting the government in what they're doing, but right now we look, because it's a vision that team had, okay, the education team that came up with that. It's a vision that they had, but we sit down and see how can we best implement it, okay, without compromising any challenges, including CBC, including COVID and the likes.
Of course, we are running out of time, but kindly touch on education amidst the COVID pandemic and ensuring that we do not overload our students, our teachers, and even our systems.
Say that again.
The COVID-19 pandemic, the education, the future of education. Right now, we are in the middle of a pandemic. What more could we be doing, or what else shall we do to ensure that we do not overload even our students, our teachers as well? You've talked about you make sure that at least yours have been vaccinated in the middle of a pandemic.
Maybe to touch on that, as much as right now the system is compressed, after 2023 it will ease, okay? But between now and then, we need to look for mitigating factors that can be able to help. All right. So ideally, I would want to probably advise the stakeholders of the education industry to be able to just work with the government. Work with the government, do what they can be able to do in their capacity. But take that question to Parliament. All right. And now that I'm hoping to be a parliamentarian soon, hopefully in 2022, take that challenge to Parliament, because they're still sitting. Okay. We have emergency funding and things like that, because it's all about money. Put more money, sort things out. And then above all, besides putting more money, ensure you have managers. Good managers. Separate core business of education and operations.
I like the way you put that point that, a lot of private schools were shut down because of the COVID-19, and government channeling funds to those schools could help even other students from other schools. But there is accountability issue. Perhaps you can touch on that as we wind up.
Accountability issue. These days it's very easy, my brother.
And of course, you've also touched something on Parliament. But anything on Parliament has to drag on.
Let me take you for a virtual journey. Go to the game, Karen. All right. Karen, you see Karen? There's a building there called the Game. All right. I hope I'm not advertising, but go there. Then ground floor, basement. Ground floor. You'll find a supermarket. They sell this. They're called what? These sporting things.
Sports apparel.
Yes. When you go to that supermarket, no cash is transacted. You either do M-Pesa or you do what? Card. You swipe all right? Or you can do bank transfer, but that's a long shot. But the point is they've removed cash, hard cash from the system, and it's working, all right? So the way you've said, how do you manage? Remove the hard cash. Right now, everything is digital, okay? Like, for example, we do our systems digitally, all right? We have a board of management, okay? When things are done, we upload them digitally. Before a check is signed for money to be released, everything has to be looked at, ticked digitally. Okay, then the guy who is, or rather the signatories must not, it's not a must they're there. They can be able to digitally sign off things. Okay, so there was this if-miss, all right?
Yes.
Embrace that, all right? Private schools have got their own systems which are working, but now put them in, replicate the same in public schools. That way things will work.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed, but we now unfortunately are out of time.
Yes.
Thank you so much for making time. We're looking at the progress of learning in institutions in the midst of a COVID-19 pandemic. We are welcoming our kids for the half-term, and of course challenges there. Magoha talking about 100% transition, but as well as quality education. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ben Njue. I have been with an educationist here, Mr. George Mugo, and now we are going back to the Jumuiya, where Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i is hosting the youth conference. Thank you so much for watching.
The greatness of our country, and then as I begin my remarks, GS, one reason why I believe that we are going to have a peaceful and successful election is because I worship the living God. And the Lord loves this country so much. And God has seen us through a lot of challenges. I believe He will see us through this and will cross this bridge of an election very successfully. I am grateful for your invite, and I have seen people in the audience whom I sincerely treasure and look up to, Archbishop Sabit, one of my favorite clergymen in the country, the presiding bishop of the Methodist Church, Madam Rosemary Mbogo, Canon Rosemary Mbogo, whose book I have been using to enhance my own fame by giving to people as a gift. And quite a number of you wonderful people. So we feel that we are within family, even as we speak this morning. GS, you asked me specifically to address our preparations for the next general elections, what we are doing in the country to secure our nation, even as we go forward. And I was advised by my heads of security agencies when I came to the Ministry of Interior that every time I get a public opportunity to speak as the Minister in charge of national security, I need to start first of all by this word of assurance. Our country is safe and secure. We have the little challenges which we have to deal with. As you know, we are tracking down some small terrorist cell in Mombasa, in the coastal region of our country. We have been working hard on that. I think we caught almost everyone we think was involved in that, and our operation continues very well, successfully. And we are focusing our eyes on the card rustling in Laikipia. I have an operation going on there, and our heads of agencies told me this morning that we are making great success, and I'll be out there next week with our colleagues to be sure that the citizens and investors who live in that part of our country can go on to enjoy their property and their wealth undisturbed. So, save for some of those that we call normal incidents, our country is safe and sound, and we thank the Lord for it. And we are all preparing, going by the constitutional timetable for the next general election. I am satisfied that this time around we're even better prepared than we were in the past, because we also have learned. And also we have cases such as, the phenomenal work that is being done by the faith-based organizations in our country. I've had the opportunity in the last 2 years, my colleague Mutai Kawe and myself, to work with the Interfaith Council, which brings together representation of religious leadership in the country on the war against COVID. And COVID remains one of the greatest challenges we are dealing with, not just in Kenya, but across the globe. But I can tell you for a fact that we should thank the Lord even more because we have fared better than many. We've suffered losses. We have lost people. I hardly know anyone who has not lost a loved one in the course of this very frustrating time. We have lost leaders. We have lost people in the security sector. I have lost over 10 chiefs in the country to COVID, which means that we have been affected in the security sector. We have lost educators. We have lost some of our very well-trained men and women. And as I said, we have lost spiritual leaders to COVID-19. So it's true, as my sister Mercy and her colleagues will tell you, the challenge we face is real. But the threat is here, and we cannot slacken. Let's do whatever we can do and follow what we have been told to do by our colleagues in the health sector. In addition to washing hands and sanitizing and keeping social distance, when government takes a decision about public gatherings and public meetings, I want to tell you this with all sincerity as a public servant. It is a painful decision that we have had to make. You know we are Africans. You know how we mourn in Africa and how we do our ceremonies to bid farewell to our loved ones when they depart from us. To get to a point where you even have to think about reducing the number of people who are going to funerals, it's the most painful and untidy thing to do. There is no government anywhere on earth that would like to do this. There's nothing we do with pleasure in this situation. And I can tell you, my brothers and sisters, for the over 4 years I have been at the Ministry of Interior, the containment of COVID-19 has been one of the most challenging experiences. You know, putting police officers on roadblocks for 24 hours, running 3 shifts of police officers and organizing how they are going to eat. And sometimes hanging out and looking at how those men and women are frustrated, trying to make us, adhere to basic things. They're just telling us, please stay alive. They love us so much that they are willing to stake out their own lives. I've gone to roadblocks in Limuru here during the night. You know the biting cold in Dironi and all these places, and you see those police officers. We've spent everything buying coats for them, supplying tea at night. It's been a very challenging experience. And when we say the things we do, I ask you with all sincerity, my brothers and sisters, let's not politicize these things. They have nothing to do with politics. I mean, in any case, by the way, if you were to go down the list of those that we have lost to COVID, they do not belong to one or the other party. They do not belong to one or the other tribe. We have all lost. This challenge we face knows no creed, no age, no tribe, no generation, nothing. It affects all of us equally. So by restraining ourselves, we save someone. By disciplining yourself, you save someone else's life. I don't think my colleague Mutai Kawe and Mercy and all these people are having fun, standing up there every day telling us how many people have died and so on. It is very frustrating. All of us have lost people. As I stand before you this morning, I have lost my cousin last night to COVID. And this happens to all of us. Please, I beg you, please, let us take this message everywhere in the country. This danger is real. Of course, we are beginning, probably by next week, going by what Mercy and the others tell us, because now we have received an increased number of vaccines. We may now get to a point where we'll start mass vaccination, because we are now getting an increased number of vaccines. And we are going to use all the outlets. The Ministry of Health has laid out a good plan. We will work with them through our national government administration officials, through the police, and of course the church as a critical actor. We will probably before the end of the week have a meeting with the Interfaith Council to agree on now how we'll use the church networks to do this through the hospitals and health facilities that are managed by the churches, so that we can get as many of our people vaccinated as possible. Please let us not look at this from any other perspective except that we have a challenge, a health challenge in the country and in the globe that we now must confront all of us. And if you don't have a condition where your doctor advises you to hold on vaccination, please be vaccinated. In fact, yes, one of the things I want to thank you very sincerely is that when we walked in and masses witnessed here, we saw that you have a vaccination stand here. I mean, this is brilliant, and I thank a lot for it. This is good, so that people come in here are vaccinated. If you have not had a jab, you get a jab. Let's be truly each other's keeper, as it were. So, what are we doing? You know, as the security sector, we do not conduct elections. Elections are conducted by law by the Iebc. We facilitate the Iebc and other agencies to conduct elections. We are hoping that through Iebc's programs and continuous further registration, we probably will have the largest possible number of young people participating in the next general election. And if you may allow me, Jess, I think the next general election, 2022, we will have, I think, will probably be the most important election we've ever had since independence. It's going to be more important than any election we've had. Why? We're going to have huge numbers of young people participating in this election. And then secondly, it's going to be probably a serious transition, as it were. We're going to make many decisions that will determine whether our country is going to continue on the forward trajectory, or if we are tempted otherwise and make mistakes, we could lose the moment. But that is not for today. For today is to tell you that the great country that we have, we look forward to having a preservation of the greatness of our country by having a peaceful transition. And our aspirations as your leaders in the security sector is that we have a peaceful election. And how do we describe it? Or what do we call a peaceful election? We would like to have an election where not a single bullet is shot, not a single Mwananchi is hurt, no one is displaced, and everyone who is able to participate in the electoral process participates peacefully and takes a decision in the governance and the management of our country, so that the real will of the people of Kenya is realized and is understood. Can we achieve this? Absolutely. And how can we achieve this? Simple, by staying on the peace path. And our advice to Wananchi has been, peace starts with me. It starts with me, first of all. It starts with you, with what you do yourself as an individual. No one will bring peace to you if you want to disrupt peace. So first of all of us, and that's why I am so grateful to the church. Over the years, the church has been our foremost and strongest partner in peace building in our country. And we can see this time again, we're working together with the church through our peace building efforts to bring communities together. We have advised our administrators that we would like a different approach this time around. And I'm shortly going to announce something which has even most impressed me about this meeting. That we want our administrators across the country, from assistant chiefs all the way to regional commissioners, to now begin working with community-based leadership groups. And one of the foremost community-based leadership group is youth groups, so that our youths cross over from what we have all the time been treated as the youths are the mobilization group for committing crime or for committing sin, so that we become the special group in society that builds sustainable peace. And yes, you asked whether we are willing to partner with you. I came here with Mr. Vamba, who is seated here. Mr. Vamba is the official in the Ministry of Interior who is in charge of county commissioners, who works with the deputy county commissioners, chiefs and assistant chiefs, and I have authorized him today in your presence to immediately start working with you and the youth groups you have organized to pair them up with the county commissioners and the chiefs across the board. So where you have meetings organized by NCCK for youth, we need to make sure, Mr. Vamba will make sure our county commissioners are there. They work with these young people to preach peace across the country. to talk to their fellow young people, to avoid being misused and to belong to gangs, to avoid being abused by political leaders, so that our young people can do what I pray. Please be seated, Mr. Pham. Our young people can do what I pray that you do, which is simply saying no. Say no to violence, say no to division of the country, say no to ethnicity, say no to all these negative aspects that will destroy our society. Former Prime Minister Tony Blair says, sometimes leadership is about saying no. Saying yes is very easy. Sometimes leadership is about taking a position of principle and saying no. Say no to these things. I want to tell you, my brothers, my younger brothers and sisters, we have now to say no. No to bad leadership. It is within us. We have the capacity. Let me tell you, and I am fairly troubled, not as much as I would like to, but I'm fairly troubled in and out of this country. And I've spent about 9 years in public life, and I can tell you this without fear of contradiction. There are very few countries that have got the capacity we have as a country. There are very few countries that are as blessed as we are as a country. We have a great country. And every time, in every ministry of government I've worked in the last 9 years, I have proved that it is possible to do the right thing in this country, and it's possible to move forward. You have plenty of people who want to move forward and do the right thing. I'm reminded of the words of a great singer saying, God is looking for a few good men. God is not looking for orators to talk him away. God does not need an army to guarantee him a win. God needs a few good men. And this country has got more than a few good men who are willing to move it to the next level. My younger brothers and sisters, say no this time round, and we will have a peaceful election. Say no to all these things. Look, right here this morning, you have just looked at a sample of young people, brilliant, smart young people, who have been given an opportunity to serve their country. The president did not go to look for them from a particular village or a particular tribe or a particular religion. Just said he wants a few young people. Does it matter to you where Massimo Wangari comes from? She is your brilliant assistant minister for health, discharging her duties. Does it matter to you where Zaki Nudia comes from? Young person full of energy, just fresh from Tokyo, assistant minister for sports and culture, leading the way and contributing to the service of the country. Doesn't matter to you where Oceani comes from. Young people who have been given an opportunity to provide service to our country. How is it that we allow political leaders to tell us anything else? We are not anything else except strong, blessed, talented Kenyan people who are willing to move this country to the next level. So please say no to these things. And if you say no to violence, you say no to misuse, you say no to all these abuses, we will have peaceful elections. Peace starts with me. You cannot organize goons and hope that your opponent will not organize goons. You cannot, insult people and hope that the other one will not insult you. It takes two to tango. That's what happens. So for us, for those of us who care so much for this country, and I believe we are in the majority, we must learn to say no. And that's what I'm asking you young people to do, to say no to this so that we can move our great country forward. And every time, one day, yes, I'll get an opportunity to have a fireside meeting with young people in the church and tell them the journey of my life. Everywhere I've gone, people tell me it cannot be done. I members of politicians told me in 2016 when I was the Minister of Education, that examination cheating is an industry and it cannot end in the country. Then I said, let's try. And then there's nobody who came from anywhere. All those people who worked with are Kenyans. And they are here. That tells you in Kenya, we actually can do it. If we are determined to move forward, we can do it. So let us not listen to things that are not realistic, are not true. And I want to pray that you, my brothers and sisters in the faith, if there was a time to stand up for the Lord and stand up for this country, that time is now. And stand by the truth. Even if you are alone, call sin by its name. Let's move this country to the next level. So many of the things you hear are not truthful. I honestly think, and if you want me to be frank with you as a public officer, our problems are not what I hear being described by people from yellowing pages of international development jargon in the 80s and 70s, cliches and so on. Our problems are very simple and straightforward and everyone knows them. Number one, endemic corruption in this country. Number two, middlemanism, the cartels that have colonized the management of public service. So that our public service is so politicized that sometimes merit and everything else is shunted aside. Mediocrity is the way of life. And because of that, we spend time pretending that we are looking at regional representation when in actual fact, we are protecting mediocrity. And these cartels are everywhere. Everywhere I have been as a minister, I have confronted these people. And I ask them one question, why can we do this differently? And they give you the answer, which I could describe in a different adjective if I was not in a church setup. They tell you, this is how we have always done it. But it hasn't worked. The way you have done it, it hasn't worked. Let's do it differently. I want to ask you young people, as a believer, dare to be a Daniel. We used to sing that song. Dare to be a Daniel. Dare to be somebody who believes that things can be done and who wants to live differently. Don't be carried away by all this empty sloganeering going on around and then so on. Our country is great. And I keep telling people, Kenyans, we are better than this. We are much, much better than this. Amadam Nagani? Yeah, we are a great country. We can't be reduced to all these challenges that you see people are reducing us to. We have a great future. And let's all come together and build that future. The country needs firm and sincere leaders who will stand up to these challenges, who will stare down these cartels, and who will not engage in all these pretenses that you see. You know, I was telling a group of other people, and this is one of my concluding remarks, that Hitler, during the campaign in Germany, he told Germans to give him 5 years and he'll give them a different German. He actually gave them a different German because he slaughtered the Jews, gas chambers and so on. He gave them a different German. But he moved around sweeping the country, taking advantage of the poverty, weaponizing the poverty of the people, and then now using it as a platform, and then sweeping himself to power. And then from there, everything else is left to history. Let's not fall into traps set for us by things that are not true and are not realistic. We have a wonderful country, and God has been kind and gracious to us and given us ourselves. And the change is not going to come from anywhere. As President Obama says, we are the ones we have been waiting for. So it is us who are going to make that difference. You and me and everybody saying no to some of these things. Speaking like my younger brothers and sisters spoke here. Honestly, how many countries around Africa would you go to and find assistant ministers this sharp? I mean, brilliant young people. I mean, was this Archbishop Elizabeth? How many countries in Africa would you walk to and walk into an assistant minister's office and find someone like Masim Wangangi and spinning policy off on top of her mind, forecast, you ask her questions, she has answers for you, and confident at 35 of the future and where we are going as a country. This is Kenya. So we are better than the way we are described, and we are better than the slogans that you hear around. Let us stand up and move forward and support our country. Finally, we have developed an engagement framework as government. We have brought together all institutions in the security sector. We are going to work with the church actively through our NCIC. The chairman, Reverend Kobia, has got some resources from us, support from development partners, and we will work with NCCK. Our peace building program that is led by a gentleman called Mr. Thuku in our ministry, that is funded by partners including the UNDP. We will work directly with you, Mr. Chairman and General Secretary. We will work directly with you. I would like to spend as much time as possible with you because I know who you are to this country. If there are people patriotic and love their country, it's the clergy in our group. We will work with you to ensure that we have a peaceful election as we move forward. We have mapped out the country. Secondly, we have looked at areas where we could have challenges, and we have already embedded groups that are collecting data on a day-to-day basis so that we can monitor activities as they go along. We don't want to be caught sleeping. We want to make sure that our early warning systems are working, and we will collect data in good time and act in good time. We are also now conducting community-based dialogues. We have instructed our senior administrators, the county commissioners particularly, to reach out to community leadership groups, as I said, and work with them. Number 4, we are focusing now on active social groups like the border, and through NTSA, we want to begin building structures that we work directly with Matatu owners, Matatu welfare associations in various areas, and Matatu circles, because they bring together critical role players in reaching out to our population as we go forward. Number 5, we have employed additional staff to hasten the registration of our people. I've been to parts of the country just where I'm told that people have challenges getting ID cards and so on and so forth. We have ramped up. We have employed additional staff to do this. We have also ensured that all our administrative units are completely manned. Where we have lost administrators, like where we lost chiefs, we're going to recruit chiefs to be sure that there will be no sublocation that is unmanned. There will be no location that is unmanned. We have just promoted 6,200 chiefs and assistant chiefs. And for the first time recently, the president has approved that we promote an outstanding number of chiefs to become assistant county commissioners. So over 300 chiefs. Some of these are younger chiefs who have gone back to school through Module 2 and obtained degrees. They have performed very well. We have promoted some of them, 300 of them around the country, to become assistant county commissioners because they have developed capacity to work with communities. And we are going to deploy more resources through our security sector to ensure that we monitor closely any indications of organized crime. The areas where groups have existed before, we are not leaving anything to chance. We are tracking those ones to be sure that organized crime does not take shape. That's why you can see we are very tough, especially in the work that we are doing right now in the coast of our country. We will do all this respecting fully the rights and freedoms of our people as enshrined in the Constitution. We have agreed in the security sector that we want to be the go-to people. Even the ideology of policing the country, we are changing it slowly. I have to be sincere with you. I don't want to come here and speak like a politician and lie and say, everything is rosy and so on. The areas we have challenges, I have to be very honest with you. The areas we have challenges, the transitioning of our policing ideology has presented us with challenges, but slowly but surely we are getting there, moving police from a force to a service. So sometimes we encounter some challenging and frustrating experiences like that happened in Embu recently. And I told the parents of those children and the leaders of that area that as an honest public servant, we will conduct an investigation and we will go the direction the investigations will point us. And that is exactly what has happened. And we will remain true to that as we go forward. This is a democracy. Kenya is a democracy. We gave ourselves democracy. Kenyans don't need permission from their government to communicate or to engage or to converse or to gather. We have given ourselves a constitution that respects freedoms, that respects our rights. But I urge that even as we have those rights, please let us respect our country and our nation. In fact, sort of the challenges we face, like with terrorism, I can tell you, Archbishop Sabit and all the religious leaders who are here, our new challenge is in social media and the abuse of the internet. I keep saying I understand when I see governments in Africa closing down the internet. 2 or 3 governments have closed down the internet. One of them has closed down the internet for 6 months and moved on, and they are not prepared to listen to anything. I have assured, and I want to say this again, our government does not think that way. We will not go that direction, because this is a country that espouses freedom. Freedom is our way of life, and we are going to be that way. We long lost the days when things happen differently. Now we're in a democracy. Let's listen to each other. But as we do that, I would like to ask that we respect those freedoms. The abuse of social media in our country is at its unprecedented high. Character assassination, defamation, fake news, vulgar language, insults, and so on. I hope that if we build a coalition of those who respect our freedoms, those who respect that when we have differences, we argue the differences and we try to convince each other and not insult each other, the more we enhance our group, the more likely it is that we will convince those few who want to abuse those freedoms to let our country be. So we will not take some of those actions, but we hope that people will remain responsible. But I hasten to add, because this I must do as a responsible public servant, we are also not going to operate a laissez-faire society, where you can wake up in the morning and do as you please. You can take me very seriously when I say that. We will be firm in the application of the law. I have requested my colleagues who run media and the others, we are going to have meetings with media houses and everybody who's involved in the information movement chain to understand where the lines are drawn by the law. The consequences of exceeding them will be unimaginable for you. We will also discharge our duty and responsibility to protect the people of Kenya, because there are extents to which we cannot go. We are not populist. There are not things we are not going to do so that we are popular. I keep saying all the time, we don't hold this position so that we can be loved. I would rather be right than popular. Do the right thing for the country, because what Kenya expects of me as its citizen is to serve it with dignity, with focus, and to be right, not to be popular and to drop the guard when I'm expected to take charge of it. We will do our part in ensuring that we keep our country safe. We have the resources we need to do that. Finally, I want on my own behalf and on behalf of my colleagues, the security sector, to thank you very sincerely for your continued support and collaboration with us. You are our most valued partners. We are your servants, we work for you. It is our duty to respond to you. So should you at any point in time need to guide us, counsel us, point out to us things,
Na mtazamaji utautuwia radhi kwa hitilafu hiyo, lakini hizo ni picha za moja kwa moja kutoka katika eneo la Limuru ambapo waziri wa usalama wa kitaifa Daktari Fred Matiang'i alikuwa anahutubia lile kongamano la vijana ambalo limeandaliwa pale, na bila shaka ameangazia masuala mbalimbali, na cha muhimu kabisa ambacho amezungumza kuhusu ni usalama wa taifa, hususan wakati ambapo tunaelekea katika uchaguzi mkuu mwaka 2022. Waziri Matiang'i akitoa onyo hasa kwa vijana wawe macho na wawe makini ili kuondokea wale viongozi ambao pengine wangependa kuwachochea wakati ambapo wanaelekea uchaguzi ili wazue ghasia, na hivyo basi amewataka tu Wakenya wadumishe amani na utulivu wakati ambapo tunaingia katika kipindi cha uchaguzi ambacho kitakuwa ni kampeni mara kwa mara kabla uchaguzi wenyewe kukaribia. Na vile vile ameangazia kuhusu magenge ya majambazi ambayo yamekuwa yakisumbua watu tu katika maeneo mbalimbali, na amesema ya kwamba serikali, wizara ya usalama wa taifa